Hello, everybody. It is me, Pacific. Wait till you get a load of this. Let me read this to you. This was on MSN this morning, brought to us by the Associated Press. 2 immigrants in U.S. illegally are named to city commissions. I saw that and I thought I have to read. Los Angeles. When Karina Macias was elected mayor of Huntington Park, a small city in the Los Angeles County, she noticed that many of its commissions were no longer active. The reason? Lack of interest. So the Huntington Park City Council put out a call for new applicants. This time they told residents in the city with a majority Latino population that anyone could apply regardless of immigration status. On Monday, 2 immigrants who are in the U.S. illegally were appointed to serve on city commissions. They bring a lot to the table, said Macias, who was elected mayor 2 years ago, and it really empowers or at least gives a voice for those undocumented in the community. Wow, folks. The appointments are believed to be among the first in the nation in which an immigrant without legal status in the U.S. has been appointed to serve in a government position. People who are in the country illegally cannot vote or seek elected office. In accordance with the 1986 Immigration Reform and Control Act, U.S. employers are prohibited from hiring anyone they know is not authorized to work in the country. City leaders said their appointments are permitted because both new commissioners have agreed to serve as volunteers without pay. Nevertheless, the appointments struck a controversial note. During the Huntington Park City Council meeting on Monday, one woman shouted to city leaders, "You are out of order." Daniel Stein, president of the Federation for American Immigration Reform, which advocates for tighter immigration controls, called the appointments the evolution of a breakdown in national immigration controls and the sanctity of American citizenship. Where does it end? He asked Tuesday. One appointee, Julian Zatarain, 21, will serve on the Parks and Recreation Commission. The college student came to the U.S. when he was 13 from the Mexican state of Sinaloa and has volunteered with the Red Cross. The other, Francisco Medina, 29, crossed the border with his brother when he was 16 and is a college graduate who will serve on the Health and Education Commission. Neither was eligible to obtain legal status under President Barack Obama's Deferred Action Program for the children of unauthorized immigrants brought to the country illegally. I never thought I had the possibility to participate in this way, Medina said. I never imagined it, to tell you the truth. Huntington Park commissioners generally receive a monthly stipend of $25 to $75. Carl Schusterman, an immigration lawyer, said that by not getting paid, both men could bypass required forms showing they are authorized to work in the U.S. I guess the city is saying, well, they're volunteers, so we don't have to go through the process, which is correct, the lawyer said. Both men will have to undergo background checks. Huntington Park and other working-class communities along the 710 freeway are home to large numbers of immigrants from Mexico and Latin America. Many are in the country illegally. Those demographics have resulted in lower than average voter turnout, the LA Times reported. We are letting people know it doesn't matter if you are undocumented or not. Zatarain said you can be an engaged resident of the city. Oh, viewers, do I have a mouthful to say about that. It's like handing over the United States military to all the internet trolls and saying, here you go, here's our battleships, here's our nuclear control rooms, and you get to make all the decisions. Let that sink in. It's like letting people get on evil, nasty sites and slander and lie, and we're going to put them in charge of our national defense. Would that make you sleep better at night? We can't find anybody interested, and if you noticed, I read one of those articles about Julian graduated from college, confirming yet again what Pacific stated to his viewers, that these people can go to college and the colleges don't check credentials. Why is that? Hold on. The things I'm about to say are going to be offensive and controversial, so if you get easily butthurt and you don't like somebody who's not politically correct, you might want to reach up to the right with your mouse, push the red X, and get out of here. I've read the stories of the great steamships that crossed the Atlantic, and the huddled masses, the immigrants, the steerage, the third-class people that came over in the shiploads on our ocean liners to come to this new world. They went into Ellis Island, they were checked. They kept their own language, but they learned English. They got jobs. They had their ethnic communities in New York, Little Italy, little Jewish town, a little Irish section. The people made it, and they became legal. Democrats and Republicans, conservatives and liberals, both look the other way on illegal immigration. Why? Because if you can get your little green straw-looking basket of strawberries for $1.99 or $2.99, you can thank undocumented workers and some documented. If you were to pay what Americans think they should make, you would pay a lot more for that little basket of strawberries. So it boils down to this. Illegal immigration is ignored largely because it saves us money, right? That's the theory. When you go to the store and you get your produce, if a white middle-class American were to do that job, he would demand union wages, health benefits, all this. Documented and undocumented workers will work for a pittance and live in a bunkhouse with a bunch of other Mexicans and send money back to Mexico for their mother or their father. Many Americans don't want to take those jobs anymore. And I've got to be honest, can you blame them? Go out and get a job doing riding lawnmowers or not riding lawnmowers, weed eaters, chainsaws, doing grounds maintenance for condominium townhome projects, working in the hot, nasty sun all day, getting a pittance. You don't see a lot of white people doing it anymore. It's Hispanics or Mexicans. I'm 49. I have to start thinking about, do I want to work so physically hard all my life? And the answer is no. What is happening in our country is in Los Angeles. Radio stations are being taken over by Mexicans. There's a radio station, I believe it's called The Voice, but I'm not sure, that is very, very anti-white American. Homeland Security does nothing to shut that stuff down. Nothing. Saying that we stole California, Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, Texas, and that the Mexicans should take it back. Might I remind those Mexicans, you left your country. Why is that? Because your government's so stellar and your government provides jobs? You got to be kidding me. People are deserting Mexico like rats on a sinking ship. And there are things that the U.S. government could do to stop that problem, but the fact is, they won't, because they don't want to. Voting in a president who's about stricter immigration reform is a joke. Even Bush, it was rumored, had servants that were undocumented workers. I don't know that. Democrats look the other way because now it's been told that illegals can vote. Barack Obama did not get in honestly. Barack Obama got in on the backs of evil ideologies. Barack Obama got into this country as president with all his shady background, his doubt about his birth origins, his ridiculous stand in Illinois politics, which was a joke for the record. He was voted in by people who favor gay marriage. He was voted in by women who hate men. He was voted in by feminists that are pro-abortion. Those same women that will scream and yell about Cecil the Lion and bring death threats on Mr. Palmer. But those same women are okay with killing their own child and calling it a fetus. Barack Obama was voted in by minorities that believe that all of their problems are the result of the white male, the white people. Barack Obama was favored by illegals, Mexicans, and Hispanics on a huge margin. Because more and more people in this government, more and more people in this country want free handouts. I'm a little concerned when I see what is happening, be it in my workplace, be it in Denver. This idea, why can't we all just get along, doesn't happen. That while we are allowing a growing force in our midst, in Denver, in Albuquerque, in Salt Lake, in Vegas, in all kinds of cities where we're allowing the Hispanics, the Mexicans come in and take over, they don't want us with them. Pacific is not racist. But I will tell you this. I see things happening in our country that are destructive to my way of life, to my ethnicity. I'm getting kind of tired of it. I know Mexican people, and there's many that I like and get along with. There's many I don't. I'm not even going to begin to talk about the Hispanic/Mexican dynamic in Denver. It's not pretty. But ultimately, you see neighborhoods transformed into what is south of the border. Bars on the windows, stucco houses, lowriders with fuzzy dice, barking dogs shooting off fireworks well before July, well after July, letting their kids run around and get into the neighbors' yards and get into trouble. Are all this way? No. I heard of a Spanish blood woman at my friend's apartment the other day say a statement that was so fallacious. She said that there is more racism directed at the Hispanic community from the white people than there is the other way. And I said, that's not true. It was white people that allowed them to come in and proliferate, and it is white people that allow them to come in illegally. Hello? You've got to be kidding me. Then when I confronted a coworker and said, you guys don't date white people. Oh, I've been with a white guy. Once, a long time ago. Are you racist? I said, no, I'm saying you guys have evidence of that, not me. I'm not afraid to date outside of my race, but you guys are. Allowing illegals to be on city government, to me, just seems such a contradiction of what our United States stands for. My government angers me in that hypocrisy. Then, U.S. government, let me bring over illegally a Filipina or a Chinese woman, because the chances of me finding a good wife and a good relationship with a good, slender, attractive, conservative woman who loves me and I love in this country are next to zero. One moment. Pacific thinks he's picked up a summer cold. Standing in proximity to people who have them and are in service. Wow. When I started immigration for Beth, reams of paperwork, stuff you have to fill out, and I understand why it's done. But at the time I said, this is my wife. Why do you got to make it so hard for me to get her here? Philippines aren't communist. Philippines aren't anti-American. Here's a sidebar. Is it amazing how much stuff can come out of your sinuses? Ew. For me to have to spend money to pay to process for visa, to me seems ridiculous. I can understand paying for some things, but to draw it out over 6 months, years, in the case of China, 2 to 3 years, if you want to get a Chinese bride over here. Again, I understand why they do it. There's been visa fraud, scams. Women have come over on the backs of a hardworking American, took him to the cleaners, took his house, divorced him, left him heartbroken, and then brought over all the relatives. And honestly, the choices we're left with in this country are not good. And Pacific gets a lot of ire for even saying that. When most American women think they're all that on a stick, and they hear the kind of stuff I'm saying, they get mad. I was walking around the lake the other night. Young woman gave me a hostile look, blonde, walking her dog, stuck up. You could tell the whole body language. Passed each other several times. And I am guilty sometimes of doing what I call indirect preaching. I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone, and I said, you know, the women in Colorado are no good. Right as I was approaching her, I didn't look at her. Excuse me. And I said, they're caught up in their dogs, they're caught up in their SUVs, they think they're all that on a stick. I said the slender women are stuck up, conceited. The overweight women are stuck up and conceited. And they see men as strictly utilitarian, or they're all becoming lesbians. I did an experiment this week. I posted many different pictures of a female, one in a bra, several others. I couldn't believe how many very good-looking Denver area women, young Denver women, wanting to sleep with them, wanting a relationship, whatever. Social experiment. And a plethora of men writing saying, oh, not all men are bad, try me. When I specifically wrote in the ad, no men not interested. Is very sobering. It's very sobering when nice people put up a post and no response. Same sex is in, heterosexual is out, unless you got big money or you want to compromise your morals and have couples in the bedroom and titillating experiences. And it dawns on me more and more as this dark cloud is creeping across the land that people don't want goodness, righteousness, integrity. Look what's happening on the internet. People don't even have a conscience anymore. When California allows the commissioning of illegals, the handwriting is on the wall. I understand why those people leave Mexico. I'm not putting them down for that. Let's be honest. Pacific has it in me too. If America got so bad and the economy went bye-bye and I had enough to get on a freighter and go somewhere else and try to sneak in, I'm doing it. Why? Because it's about survival. But what is sad to realize, what is sobering to realize, is we take in these illegals while the U.S. fails to pay attention to a very hard, sobering, uncomfortable fact. If the U.S. hit the worst economic slump ever and our economy's back and spine was busted in all directions, do you think Hong Kong would take me? Or Mexico? Or Panama? Or any other place without processing? Heck no. America is a foolish country. And what got us here? White people were in control of this nation. We opened the door for that. And white people are frustrated with illegal immigration, but yet it was big business and big money politicians that looked the other way. You can thank Washington, D.C. for creating most of the problems that we have. I'm so tired of grandstanding politicians saying what they can do and will do, and they don't, and they break their promises. Pork barrel project, special interest, stuffing so many things in a bill that the public doesn't even know about, and everybody says, oh, we got to pass this. Then you find out that there's a bicycle tax. Bicycle tax? Yeah, they stuffed it in that bill you passed. A bicycle tax? Yep, every time you pay for a bicycle, you got to pay $20 more to fund this. I'm being facetious. That's not true. But that's the way politics work. There's absolutely no difference between the majority of our politicians in Washington, D.C. and the rapper hip-hop gangster crowd. Nothing. One wears suits and ties. One wears their hat on backwards, makes filthy amounts of money, bringing nothing good to this land. And the same is true with the suits and ties in Washington that make it look good on the outside. This is why Pacific has grown over the years to distrust people wearing suits and ties. They are not my friend. They are not genuine. Suit and tie is a mask for I'm going to screw you big time. I've been to churches in America, Christian evangelical churches, that make much ado about how we should dress. And I'm not talking modesty. I go to churches in America where Sunday morning the woman wears a dress, guy wears suit and tie. As if that's going to change this. I'm not against people dressing up. But when people dress up and they look down their nose when I walk into church with a t-shirt and jeans on, something's been lost. America's all about political correctness, don't want to offend anybody, and yet a lot of us are being offended. Donald Trump says something that gets the illegals' butt hurt, and the Hispanic community reacts negatively, yells and screams that this guy's racist. But if a white guy like me stands up and says, no, there's racism in your camp too, boy, they don't like to hear that. Pacific likes culture. Pacific loves ethnicity. Why do you think I go to an Asian restaurant? Most of my time is spent cruising through the Mexican-Hispanic neighborhood. There are aspects of Hispanic-Mexican culture that I love. There's aspects of Hispanic-Mexican culture that I don't like. The same can be said for Asian, Black, and my own culture. There are things about white culture that I like. There are things about white culture I don't like. White culture's obsession with sports and pets has gone way over the top. White culture's obsession with movie stars, way over the top. White culture's obsession with things they really don't need, like SUVs. Oh, I got to have a 4x4 even though I live in Nashville. Or LA. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And why are people not getting involved in city commissions? Because really things don't seem to do much good, do they? So we've allowed the Trojan horse to come into the western states in America, and don't be surprised one day if they vote the rest of us get off the island. The idea that America is ethnically diverse and that this all works is kind of a joke. It doesn't really work. When one culture becomes dominant, they tend to snuff out the other one. Assimilation does not occur. The only time assimilation occurs is if you have a city block and you were to isolate that city block and you have a black family, an Asian family, Hispanic family, an illegal immigrant family, and then a white family. Are they all going to come together? Heck no. Garage door goes up, SUV goes in, door goes down. We live in our house, we live in our culture. Don't you bother me, we'll be just fine. That really is what this country's become. We'll do like the nuns do when they hear the whisk, whisk, whisk of the nuns running between their side and the priest's side and getting together to have sex in the middle of the night in the dark when nobody else can see. We like to go to our ethnic restaurants. Oh, I'm going to go have some Mexican food. I'm going to have some Asian food. But if you think they're going to chum up to their Asian neighbors, no. Wow. I apologize for the lack of quality in this video with sinus issues. But I felt it necessary to talk about this. Pacific is not against people immigrating to America. But can you do it the right way? The U.S. can solve the problem. I think it's ironic that the U.S. is always telling Israel what to do with their land, but the U.S. doesn't want to tell itself what to do with people entering our land illegally. We let in Muslims that are destructive to our freedom of religion. If you think I'm joking around, look at jihad, look at Sunnis, and look at Sharia law, and look at that stuff. If you think they believe in freedom of religion as we do under our Constitution, you better guess again. The UK and France are both guinea pig experiments of what happens when you let too many Islamics in. Women demanding to wear veils when they're supposed to have a driver's license photo. And the prevailing European ethnicity says, no, this is the way we do it. Oh, you're not respecting us. You're not respecting us. We don't have to respect you. This is our country. And I'm going to be honest, the Mexicans are demanding that we be sensitive to them and not laugh at their culture, not do this, while they are sticking their middle finger in the sky towards ours. Not all Mexicans, Hispanics are doing this. But I'm going to be very honest about something. My experiences. When I was in Prescott, I had two good friends. One white guy, one Mexican guy. That Mexican guy and his family were so kind to me. His own cousin wanted to date me. I wasn't interested in her, but she was a nice girl. They made me a part of the family. I detected no racism. She used to fix burritos, tacos, put on a spread, his mother. We were both in cross country and track together. When I became a Christian in 1985, I lost those two friends. I lost them because everybody, literally within a few weeks of my conversion, went. I'm going through the beginning of leaving high school, marrying a woman I didn't want to marry, trying to figure out what has just happened to me with this Christian conversion. But my friend, when I wasn't a Christian, we got along great. And I heard the racial comments. He had his green 80s Silverado pickup, or whatever, the green pickup with a topper on it. And he offered to drive us all to the start of a area where we were going to do some running. So all the cross-country guys got in the back. Big, fat, white kid gets in the back. And he pulls one of the screens off the windows, bends it up, the frame, throws it out on the highway. And I'm like, wow, look at what so-and-so's doing in the back. My friend, nice enough to drive, said, hey, don't be damaging stuff. And this guy yells, shut up, you effing Mexican. I remember me then not being as bold as I am now. And I was like, that really bothered me. Paul was one of the nicest guys I ever knew. Fast forward to moving to Denver in 2012. I'm sorry for what I'm about to say, but I do not trust most Hispanics in Denver at all. I have seen favoritism. I have seen the girls with the stinkiest, nasty attitudes, whether fat or slender, the chica culture with their breasts pressed all the way up into their chin, showing it off. I don't see them dating whites. I don't see it. The numbers aren't there. I'll see black women date white men. I'll see Asian women date white men, but I don't see it on the numbers. And when I see within different departments of one of the employers I work for, favoritism, one Hispanic male hiring nothing but Hispanic females that are semi to somewhat attractive, and some of them have attitudes, and I'm like, really? When I see Hispanic/Mexican males never say hi to me, but say hi to all the pretty Hispanic girls, put their arms around them, it reminds me of a teacher that I'd love to say his name on YouTube. He was a Spanish teacher at Mammoth High School in the 80s. He was also, I believe, the tennis and volleyball coach. Or the volleyball, I can't remember. Mexican to the core, very rude to me, but sweet to all the pretty girls. Even had them on his lap in the gym. I remember my friends going, do you see what he's doing? We had a nickname for him, Senor, because that's what he wanted us to call him, Senor, in his last name. He eventually got fired for behavior of indiscretion with girls. Gee, how many freaking years did that take? Today's kids, you bump them. Sexual harassment. Back then, nobody cried foul ball. And the hot-looking white girls that were well endowed with large breasts sitting on his lap. And he's got his hands on their shoulders and they're giggling, and I'm like, I look back at that and I'm disgusted. If any time there was a clear-cut case of this guy should be fired 5 years ago, that was it. That I am not making up. So my experiences with some of the Hispanics was not favorable. I raised my hand in Spanish class, waited my turn. Yes, Pacific. The whole rude tone. I said, I'm sorry, I did not hear what you said. It was hard to hear in the back of the class. Could you please... Oh! Mr. Pacific wasn't listening again. Embarrassed me in front of the whole class. The guy was arrogant. The guy was a jerk. He was not what I call a handsome guy. Goofy looking. Had his perm silly 70s style hairdo. And I'm getting into Spanish class, and this guy was a jerk. There was no voice for me back then. I couldn't speak out. Because that was dominant back then. We had teachers that were pathetic examples. I told you the story about a math teacher in math class at Mammoth High School that took a woman, laid her down on the table, brown-skinned woman, opened her purse, held her down to the table in front of the class, and shoved a pack of cigarettes into her face, mashing it up. Do you think he was ever disciplined or fired for that? Nope. We've gone from that extreme in our American culture to now you say something offensive, even if it's true, like Donald Trump, and they will ride you out on a rail. A clear violation. And when I went to Mammoth High School, I loved Mammoth Lakes, California. I loved growing up there. I didn't like the dysfunction of my parents. My dad hated snow, cussed at snow, and I said, "What are you doing here?" He got mad at my enthusiasm for snow, and I'm like, well, gee, we live in Mammoth. The Sierra Nevadas gets more snow than most places I've ever lived. And it was that wintry snow that Pacific lost himself in. I was considered the loser growing up in school. My parents didn't have style. I wore geeky clothes, tiger-striped, horn-rimmed glasses because I thought they were so cool as a kid. And I was always behind the 8-ball. Always. Most of your people trolling today were also behind the 8-ball. That's why they lash out and are mean-spirited on the internet. The internet is not evil. The internet reveals who we are and what we are. It reveals what's in our heart. People want to put prohibitions on everything and say, well, you know, you're looking at this, you're doing this. Well, yeah, you are looking at it. It's showing that that's in your heart. I do get annoyed when I see things going on in this country that to me seem criminal. That colleges and universities look the other way with illegals because, after all, it's about making money, selling a lame duck education. I'm sobered by what is coming down the pike. I'm sobered by the direction America's headed. I'm sobered by the fact that a absolute loser woman like Hillary Clinton can even think of running for presidency with Benghazi, with Vince Foster, with Whitewater, with her husband's indiscretions under an Oval Office desk with Monica Lewinsky. It's funny. People will talk about Pacific and his Tumblr account that I had. But they'll look the other way with the liberals' gross, personal, physical indiscretions. Yoko Ono come out and admitted that her and Hillary had a fling some years ago. Nobody says a word. But you take a conservative get up there and have an affair on his wife, and they want to drag it all over the media. Bill Clinton gets his wee-wee sucked underneath the Oval Office desk with the Secret Service watching this. And the general reaction of the liberal public? It's nobody's business. Really? So we pay taxpayer dollars. I paid taxpayers' dollars for Bill Clinton to receive head in the Oval Office. Really? I mean, if you're going to do that, you couldn't do that behind closed doors somewhere and get a room somewhere, and but you desecrate our Oval Office. People can talk all they want about the Skull and Bone Society and the Ivy Leagues and the Bilderbergs and all that, and I don't know what's what about that. I've heard a lot of stuff. By the way, I came in after my walk, and the man of the house said, you ought to watch this program. This is very interesting. It was talking about the Knights Templar. I'm not very familiar with them. But there's a place in Minnesota called the Kensington Farm, and I believe it's in Kensington County, that they found some very old carvings on rocks. Viking ship, carvings. And they go back to the 1300s. Kind of shatters the idea that Christopher Columbus founded America. That they're finding more evidence that the Vikings sailed down to England, from Norway, Scandinavia, up to Iceland, over to Greenland, down the coast, up the St. Lawrence Seaway, and they knew how to drag boats when the Great Lakes didn't have locks, blasted in across Lake Superior, most likely came into Duluth. Why would people carve Viking ships in stones in the middle of Kensington? And those carvings are old because the pittedness that is taken place is hundreds of years old. They talked about the type of stone. I believe it was a feldspar. Very hard rock. Very eye-opening program. We somehow think that when we go to public school or we turn on the TV, or as I believe it's Cozy 101 or is it I can't remember 100.3. If you saw it on the internet, it must be true. People believe just because they hear it on the TV that must be. We've been taught that Christopher Columbus found this country. No, he didn't. The people that came over that Bering Strait found it. We just need to try to fix a date of when the people from the European continent found it. And we're getting closer to having a pretty good idea that maybe the Vikings were here first. Very interesting stuff. I find it interesting that nobody was satisfied in staying in their land. They didn't have charts and maps of the ocean, and they wanted to get out and see what was out there. Do you know what's funny? There was no such thing as an illegal back then. That if I, as a Scandinavian, could have sailed my boat across the Pacific and landed there and built a settler's cabin and a farm, I'm a U.S. citizen now. Before it was even the USA. Interesting. White people are going to lose something in this country if we continue to let this stuff go on. And they're not going to shake hands with us. They're not going to, when they become increasingly greater in numbers, they're not going to put up with us. One of the myths that America's taught for a long time, that if we just be nice to all these other nations, they'll be nice to us. Not so. I'll say it again. If we had a national emergency that just broke our back, do you think any other country is going to take us? I doubt it. Maybe for slaves. And Americans sure won't make good slaves because they don't submit to anybody but themselves. Pacific knows what it's like to be a servant. Pacific understands the heart of the domestic helper, and if that's what it took to survive, Pacific could rise to the occasion. Oh, I've got my backbone. But living with people has taught me. Living with people has taught me something. Too much of our government is about what can it do for us. Too much of our society is based on I want, I get, I want, I will do. It's self-centered. Why do you think millions of Americans get in debt to have that show-off vehicle that they really don't need? And I'm going to be very direct. I talked to a lady friend of mine last night. She started a job with a trucking company, and then they told her, you'll be here for 2 weeks classroom, and then we're going to go over to Salt Lake City. She goes, but I have my dog. And I said, you might want to get rid of the dog. Did you think when you signed up for the trucking company, they're going to let you bring it in their truck and stink it all up? Well, I asked them, and they said, I can't. Do you notice what is happening in our culture, that even white people are doing, that we have to accommodate everybody and all their baggage and all their little interests? And the same thing is going on with the ethnic cultures that are starting to dominate parts of America. Pacific believes that when it comes to survival, when you have a ship that's sinking, you start throwing the cargo overboard to lighten the load on the ship. And I was very pointed. I said, I think it might be time to get rid of the dog. So instead, she quit that after one day, took a very low-paying job with a company that micromanages employees, and what I know about her, she's not going to like that for long, to accommodate a pet. I'm amazed at what Americans will do in this country to keep their addiction alive. Potty Training sent me a link yesterday. Thank you, Potty Training. That was awesome. That somebody got on Craigslist and did a rant against all the people moving to Colorado. Barring all of his profanity, which was thick and just over the top. He said, when you change lanes, do you think you could use your turn signals? And for those that drive SUVs, and for the people that mock me for my hatred of the SUV, there's a lot of people out here that are getting sick of them. This isn't something I'm pulling out of my bottom. This is something that people have observed. So just because you have an SUV or four-wheel drive doesn't mean you can drive like a maniac, speed around us, no blinkers. It might give you more control in adverse conditions, but it still slides, still gets stuck. And when you're driving like an idiot, some of us locals are tired of it. This rant went on to say that when we drive in the backcountry on lonely Colorado roads, that it's etiquette to wave at each other even if we don't know each other. But these new people moving here, when somebody waves at them, they yell, F you, a-hole, because they're so used to their jaded crap hole that they move from, that they think somebody's being sarcastic and making fun of them. The dynamic of Colorado has shifted so much in just the last 3 years that I've been here that it's becoming a not so pleasant place to live. The traffic has increased manifold. The people the people moving here to smoke weed is off the charts. That the cannabis industry is generating millions and millions of dollars out here. So much so you can smell it when you pass dispensaries all over the city of Denver. As I drive my school bus to pick up children that are supposed to get educated, we've taught our children say no to drugs, but it's okay to smoke dope when you're 21. When you read the silly little ads by girls on Craigslist, I want a man who's not into drugs, but I'm 420 friendly. The height of intellectual stupidity. Marijuana is a drug. E-I-E-I-O. That I'm watching a dumbing down take place in Colorado. I've always seen it anyway, but it's getting worse. And I'm not a big fan of the locals myself. The locals out here, Colorado's always been different. But even I admit I would have loved to have lived here in the 70s when it was a tamer, quieter place. That when it was snowy and icy, you could go out there and drive and there was nobody else out there. Because they were smart enough to go, I'm not going to get on these roads. I'm not the only one saying these things. People are getting tired of illegals doing this, doing that. It makes me sick that illegals can go to colleges and universities and get a degree on the backs of our infrastructure, our thing, even apply for grants. And the government doesn't do one darn thing for a 49-year-old man to get an education except strap me with debt. And at my age, people are less likely to hire me even if I get a 4-year degree. If I went now, I'd be out at 54 years old. Doing what? And $100,000 in debt? You've got to be kidding me. Just so I can get a better paying job that will take me a long time to pay off that debt to get there? For me, it's more advantageous just to go to work and stay out of debt. And I'm not knocking my friend, but it underscores a problem, that our priorities are really screwed up. That this friend will complain that don't have enough money, that maybe I need to sell my truck. Maybe you got to get rid of the dog. I know what dog food costs and shots cost, and you're paying for daycare every time you're gone. Hello? It's like smokers. I love it when smokers complain about having no money, and a pack of cigarettes is $5 to $6, and they go through one a day. Can we do the math? $5 times 30 days is $150 a month for your vice. And people think that I'm judgmental and wrong for saying these things. When your financial ship is sinking, find the money drain, plug it. Your dog, your pet is not that important. And I find over and over again in this dysfunctional country that women are embracing their doggies because they've been butthurt over relationship, and their dog suddenly takes on human status. Look at the hypocrisy surrounding the Cecil incident. I already weighed in on that. Palmer screwed up. But to get death threats because he shot and killed a lion? What's wrong with this picture? Because Romans 1 covers it. Americans worship the creature rather than the creator. Americans right now are thumbing their nose at God's ways in every way. It is more popular to become a lesbian than it is to be straight and have a monogamous marriage. It is more popular to do everything that goes against God. It's more popular to go speeding to keep up with the flow of traffic rather than say, you know what, I'm going to follow the laws as they're written. Even our own cops go barreling around me all the time, everywhere, always speeding. No lights, no sirens. You bet I'm going to comment on the stupidity that goes on. Letting illegals come into this country while having strict controls about a man marrying somebody in Asia, and you got to go through paperwork and processing and all this and pay big money out of your pocket to get an attorney, because if you do something wrong with immigration, they're not going to help you. They'll throw your whole file in trash. If you want to hear a true story, I have a friend in Florida who had an immigration department person who did the processing, and he says, it's disgusting what they do to people that get married. If they filed something wrong, we're told just to throw it in the trash and not even always tell them. There have been stories of people who actually found a good woman over there and tried to get over and ran into problem after problem after problem because of the ineptness of the INS. And the INS doesn't do a damn thing about the illegals just flooding in across the border. That we got U.S. troops in Okinawa raping Japanese girls, getting drunk and driving under the influence of alcohol in Tokyo streets and Asian streets. And the Chinese or the Japanese are saying, could you please get your base out of here? We could shut them down and take those little naughty boys and say, you know what? You're done. You're going to patrol the U.S.-Mexico border, and we're done. And you make a statement to the Mexican government, you got 30 days. Man, we're going to crack down. And we're not playing games. You've got a problem with your government, it's corrupt. You've got a problem and you need to fix your infrastructure. You need to find a way to keep your people in your country and stop sending them over here. Because we're getting tired of the collective damage they're doing in this country, and illegal immigration is costing this country in the billions of dollars. If you want an example of how liberal politics doesn't work, you take a look at the individual state of California, deeply mired into debt because of giving handouts, voting themselves raises, all liberal thinking to the core. California has become such a filthy cuss word anymore that anytime Californians flock to any place, whether it's Colorado, Montana, the locals go, oh gosh, those damn Californians. Boulder, Colorado used to be a nice, quaint Colorado town with gravel streets. Boulder, Colorado is one of the liberal strongholds, promoter of anything goes mentality except conservative belief systems. You walk into the stores in Target and those stores and you will see women that are very, very, very much man-hating. Oh, they're married to men. Pussified males that have become more girly. I was talking to my ex-wife yesterday about today's teenage boys, how girly they're becoming. How they're not tough. And they talk tough, they talk foul, and they threaten. They can't do an honest day's work. They can't do their chores. Today's teens. And yesterday somebody told me about a boy cutting his arm up because a girl broke up with him. A teenager. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I had girls break up with me. I got depressed, but I never thought of cutting myself. That for all the people that shoot their little arrows at me on YouTube and make fun of me, I worked hard as a kid. I hated school, but I went every day, never thought of skipping it. Never even thought, entertained it. I just went, trudged through it. Get home, we got 4 feet of snow on the ground, I shoveled it. I didn't complain. I used to picture myself being a human snowplow, and I loved it when the snowplows would come up the street. I was fascinated by the big Oshkosh snowblowers, the big road graders, the big orange snowplows. And sometimes the plow drivers would wave, back up, put the blade down, clear my driveway out instead of leaving me a big berm. When I moved to Minnesota, I had a very close friend, and he made fun of everything about me. What is a berm? The stuff that's called a snowbank. It's a snowbank. We used to call the topper on a truck a camper shell. They called them camper shells out west here. I was laughed at up there. What's a camper shell? People out west have their reasons for naming or calling something, and people in Minnesota have their reasons for calling something. And what we see happening with ethnic cultures, that ethnic cultures look in on our white culture and go, white people, when we all need to wake up and realize nobody's culture is superior. Let me say this loudly. Nobody's ethnicity is superior to anybody else's. Nobody's. Do you know why? Because we all came from Adam and Eve, and we are ultimately one blood. Sometimes, whether it's Irish pride, Latino Chica pride, African American pride, okay, that's all well and good, but when it raises walls of division, your pride turns into sin. We can't all just get along, because outside of Jesus Christ, it's impossible. And even those of us that are in Christ, we see a fragmented American church with false teachings from this corner, false teachings from that corner, strife, division, immature diapered saints. Yeah, specific longs for the day when Jesus Christ reigns and Jesus Christ puts all this foolishness to an end, including my own struggle with myself. That's not a bad thing. But when I lived in Minnesota, I learned to say topper. I learned to say snowbank. I want to be careful how I say this, but when in Rome, do as the Romans do, up to a point. You don't come in with Arizona culture and Minnesota culture and do a camp out and a stakeout and get legislation and say, we need to call it a berm. We need to call it a camper shell. I'm tired of this. This is offensive to me. These people offend me. They're laughing at me. And that's what ethnicities are doing. Donald Trump's not allowed to speak his heart on illegal immigration and what it's doing to this country. Can I say something to the community that's offended by that? Too bad. Deal with your butt hurt and pull up your big boy pants. We're tired of the stuff you're doing, but you don't care. I'll tell you something. Let's talk about San Gabriel, California, Kmart. When my grandma was alive, she lived at San Marino and Roses Road, Cape Cod style house with a milk door in the back. That was a white neighborhood. Manicured lawns. The next door neighbor had a clover lawn. You know, we were always looking for a 4-leaf clover, and you couldn't walk on it. It was very delicate. Very nice neighborhood. Safe. No crime. I went to visit my grandmother in 1996 and was shocked to see San Gabriel. Go into the Kmart and it's overrun with Mexican people. And when the Mexicans went into that store, my then wife and I would go in there, everything was on the floor. The big center tables, $10. They pick up the shirts, throw it aside. Pick up the shirt, throw it aside, unfold it, rumpled. The Mexican kids are running through the store, grabbing the wheelie toys and riding them up and down the aisles, throwing balls around, raising hell. And the guy that ranted against the new people moving to Colorado said, we don't think your kids are as cute as you think they are. Quit bringing them to the restaurant to yell and scream and run through the restaurant and disturb the rest of us. This was sent to me by a link by Potty Training. It was posted in one of the Denver publications online, and the thing said that many people were offended by this rant. I thought, of course. The only people that get offended are the ones that's toes are stepped on because they let their children run around. Welcome to Spock discipline. Don't spank your child, you'll bruise his ego. Welcome to liberal belief systems and parenting. Hey kids, you know your mom and dad smoke pot. It's okay. And if you, as an ordinary citizen minding your own business in a restaurant or store, I mean, I've seen kids crash into my legs, riding tricycles up and down the aisles, and oh yeah, it's funny. Two kids will be running and chasing, the one's not looking, and bam! Hey, watch where you're going, kid. Mother comes around the corner and puts her hands on her hips and glares. Get control of your kids, lady. Oh, shut up. I'm in here shopping, and you're infringing on my rights. Don't give me that ethnic bullcrap. That's what's happening. If I don't like the way Minnesota is, I can leave. If the Hispanic and Latino and Mexican and Spanish blood community don't like the way we are, get out of our country. Please go away. We won the war. We won the Alamo. Remember that. Remember the Alamo. I'm sick and tired of hearing how bad the white guy is, but yet you come in and take advantage of the white man's policies and procedures that give you all kinds of perks and freebies. That when your women come over and have a baby, we don't kick them out because we don't believe in being mean. And that is costing us a ton of money. Obama passes Obamacare. And guess what? People are still taking their kids to the ER under Medicaid. The very thing the liberals were complaining about. You can't go to the ER with a sniffling nose. Well, people who have Medicaid are still doing it. And the illegals can get health care. Did you know that? The illegals can go to college and university, and now they can be on city councils in LA or Huntington Park. This white boy's got a problem with this. We got trolls on the internet that all they're doing is trolling and being evil and being like Beavis and Butthead. Stupid stuff. They don't care about politics. That the very attitude they're promoting is one day those ethnicities are going to come down and shut down all these white trolls that have nothing better to do. President Barack Obama wants to put tighter emission controls on factories. And every time he does that, factories in the U.S. are closing down in record numbers and going over to China where they have no pollution controls. That it was said on Fox News the other night that all this attacking emissions in the U.S. is not doing any collective good when you look at China that is manufacturing, that America's become not a serving nation anymore or a manufacturing nation, that we are a consumer nation. Do the math on that and see how long we're going to last. When you're taking in but not giving out, guess what's going to happen? We're going to fall. Americans want their movies, their SUVs, their Starbucks, their entertainment. We're not giving anything to the world anymore except Sodom and Gomorrah and Babylonian thinking. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have Christians running around saying, oh, Jesus is the reason for the season. No, it's materialism and paganism all balled into one. Yes, I have to speak out. I can't help but do that. That's what keeps me here. I have something to say. This is my blog, and it's like I need to say something. See if we can resonate with other people. But unfortunately, the numbers aren't there. People are not galvanizing. We've become an apathetic, uncaring nation. Minnesota is a culture, let me tell you that. There are some things in a culture we should try to change. Integrity, equity, equality, reaching across the aisle and understanding each other. Cultures that promote racism, hatred, discrimination, and hiring their own kind, they should be shut down. They should be sent packing. But we're finally living in a time where all the affirmative action laws and the Fair Equal Housing Act and all that stuff, it really isn't working. What's happening is we're letting the people who really don't work hard just take over and get all the free handouts and continue to drag our nation down. We're letting illegals flood in by the millions. We can stop the problem, but the fact is Americans really don't want to. And they had lined up all the political candidates that are running, so many of them. And I just ask myself, with Barack Obama's voting bloc of illegals, feminists, pro-abortion, pro-gay, and the ethnicities, that's a huge bloc. And I said to somebody just the other day, do you really think the conservatives can win it? I said, don't you think that we're in the minority now? And he said, yes, I do. I think we are in the minority now. I'm going to say it again. Ted Kennedy, Chappaquiddick, drunk. Every time you saw him in his latter years, red-faced, too much alcohol. No shame whatsoever to sit on American politics drunk, being a representative of the great United States of America. Left his girlfriend to die wasn't jailed or thrown in the clink for that. Strom Thurmond, racist. Find out he had sex with a black maid and had a child by her. Barack Obama dragging our nation deeper into debt, not providing one job, passing a healthcare thing with others, not reading it, not giving a damn that it is financially killing us. And the argument the liberals use is we needed to do something. Yeah, we did. But notice America never goes after the corporations. The Democrats want to. But the Democrats are hypocritical. They want to go after corporate dollars, especially in the name of oil, but it's the Democrats that are also buying the Cadillacs, the SUVs, and the Escalades. I can point to every liberal, especially if you get into ethnicities, they can't even afford the Escalades, but they'll get deeply into debt for that, just to show off their pimped out ride. Oh, and by the way, they're going to vote for Barack Obama. It's sobering stuff, folks. And don't kid yourself, Democrats favor big corporations too. Barack Obama favored the HMOs and the healthcare organizations, and guess what happened when he passed Obamacare? The health premiums jumped up a huge percentage. That what was once $300 before Obamacare now is $600 or $700. Look into it. The Affordable Health Care Act, that's a bunch of crap. It is not affordable. Only some people qualify for Medicaid. I don't even qualify for it. People are voting on their emotions today. People are voting on color. People are voting on dismantling everything that has to do with white culture, destroying it, shredding it. That a whole bunch of dumb sheeple in the United States would rather vote in a form of socialism that a whole bunch of people, mostly Democrats, don't think for themselves and have very little intellectual capacity and yet call themselves the smart ones because they believe in evolution and they believe in helping the down and out. Welfare, special housing has not helped a lot of people. The people who live in project housing can go have babies, go get drunk, go do things, and get discounted rent or free rent. A guy like me does not get that. I wouldn't want to live in the projects. The carrying on and the crazy behavior that goes on in those places is unbelievable. When some ethnic kid is living in the projects and I live across the street in what is not projects but apartment building, and he comes out in a car nicer than I have with his boom boom going, and you say, hey, could you turn that down? F you, honky. Excuse me? I'm paying for you to sit on your butt and be a bad neighbor. Isn't that nice of you? It's crazy. This stuff's only going to get worse. And what is the answer to that? We're not going to see societal reform. We're not. If anything, we're going to see our rights stripped more and more and more. That you need to understand that the well-off in this nation don't care about the working backs of people. Walmart does not care about its employees. Walmart does not care about its employees. They make more than enough to provide health insurance for all of their workers. I'm sickened by the corporate mentality. They're not our friend. And Americans give in to them over and over and over again. Working on these trucks, I'm amazed at how much parts, levers, and control knobs that you got to use every day, how cheap they are and how they break and have to be replaced. And you go buy one of those knobs, $10 for a little radio knob, $10 for a little piece of plastic made in China. You think corporate cares about you? The inside of these semi-trucks are all plastic. And when they catch on fire, everything burns. Plastic was supposed to be cheaper, very expensive. That a headlight assembly, the molded headlight assembly, one headlight, $200. Plastic. I'm starting to believe that NAFTA was a bad thing. I'm starting to believe that when the U.S. started shipping manufacturing overseas because they wanted to pay cheaper prices and Americans demanded cheaper products, we are getting cheaper products. And if you've noticed that along with that domino effect, people have become cheaper in the way they deal with other people. That because of materialism, we've become passionate about things and we're not passionate about people. And that's why people don't care if they cut you off, no signal. That's why they don't care if they go like this to you on the road. But don't hurt their little beloved toy that they just bought. Don't scratch it. There's something wrong with America when they will do all this stuff to accommodate their dog and then complain about having no money. There's something wrong with a country that allows illegals to go to college here and hold city positions here and vote and get all kinds of handouts, including health care. I don't even want to talk about Obama, the most worthless president of all time. Fact. And yet, silly Americans voted him in twice. And now Joe Biden wants to run. Oh, please. There's a great candidate. Not. Unfortunately, Trump's just going to take away votes. Trump has his problems. Trump's a self-centered man, too. His whole top floor of Trump Towers is plated in real gold. How vain is that? The people that need to step up to this plate and run for office in this country can't because they don't have the money. They can't get the campaign funds. Pacific would never get voted in office, ever. Because we have a dominant force of liberal thinking that is very anti-God, very anti-conservative, very anti-fiscal. Listen carefully to your evening news when liberals say they want to dismantle our war machine. Listen very carefully when they want to provide the health care and the rates just skyrocket. Do you not see what the liberal agenda is? Disarm us? Make things so expensive? You want to take control of a nation. This is how you do it. Open us up to have another army invade us and take over? Do you think the elitists care? They've got their islands. They've got their retirement. When things get too hot over here, they'll just get on their yacht and sail away. We can talk on and on about conspiracy theories. I don't know whether they're true or not, but what I can say is I just watch what's happening and forget the conspiracy theory. Somebody's scuttling this great ship called America. Somebody's went deep down below in the engine room and opened all the seacocks, and that water's roaring in, and Americans are standing up on the deck like the Titanic going, Well, this ship's too big. It'll hit the bottom before it sinks. I mean, we'll still be above water. Little did those foolish people realize there was 2.5 miles of ocean underneath that hull. And while one guy's cutting open his life preserver to show his wife what it's made of, and people are playing honky-tonk pianos, and Wallace Hartley's still got his band playing on, the thing is almost surreal as the Titanic's very slowly sinking. Lights are burning, beautiful silverware set out for the next day's breakfast and lunch and dinner. And people find it unfathomable that this great ship, the unsinkable Titanic, is going down. The enemy of our souls has successfully gotten America to a point where Americans now have become so self-centered, so inverted, that all we can think about is our toys, iPhone, iPad, iPods, that more and more we're seeing that people don't have our back at all. The Bible says the love of many will grow cold, and we're seeing that, even amongst our own kind Christians. That's not good. It's not good at all. Pacific has a better vantage point than some. All those pretty slender women, they don't live in my shoes. They wouldn't make it 24 hours. Because if you're beautiful, you got all these people that claim to love you and fawn all over you. But when you're like me, you work hard, you're alone with your views. When I say alone, meaning here, nobody has my back here. Nobody has my back in Denver or Colorado. No one. But God. God does. God has me in his hand. God says he'll never leave me nor forsake me. But it's still sobering to realize when you see all the stars and you watch the TV and everybody gets behind this show and that cutesy this and that cutesy that, it's so fickle. It's sobering. It's sobering when you're watching your nation crumble around you. That the reason Colorado's economic growth is so big right now is because it's connected to all the dope. That's not something to be proud of. And if the pot-smoking people get offended at me, deal with it. I don't care. You're not bringing good to society by this. Not at all. Most of the people that smoke pot will not even get up and work. They tend to be lazy. They smell. Everybody's okay with that now. And I watch this stuff go on all around me. I'm watching the effects of liberal thinking destroy us. And at the same time, I'm watching lackadaisical conservatives that don't have a pair of testes say what needs to be said and take the bull by the horns. That we have been bullied and scarred by the Democrat liberal left to stand up and say what needs to be said. That when Donald Trump says something, everybody's like, oh, that's not politically correct. Good. that people are trying to woo voters. They don't want to offend everybody. And it's like, you know what? Take your stand. This warm, fuzzy, mushy group hug mentality. Listen, if you're a conservative and you believe in God, you're an offense, period. End of story. Go a step further. The Bible says all that desire to live godly in Christ Jesus shall or will suffer persecution. Politics needs to stop being politics. And what is really sad is if you took away the huge salaries and the best health care in the world, they're not under Obamacare, by the way, the politicians. You take that away, how many of them would be volunteering to do what they do? Whoosh. You go back to George Washington's day, Congress and senators did not make money. Did you know that? I believe I read that right. If I'm wrong, correct me, but I saw that and I was like, wow. George Washington, our president, crossing the Delaware, freezing cold, feet wrapped in cloths. You know what? We don't have presidents like that anymore. Presidents that grandstand on battleships and said, I was in the military. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, respectable individuals. Didn't agree with everything of either one, but they were men. Barack Obama's male in sex only, but he's not a man. Our presidents are controlled by the media. They have script writers and teleprompters because they cannot speak from their heart to their own countrymen. And we, the bloody fools in this country, vote for that kind of plastique. And you wonder why hot-looking women, when you go into a business, talk to you in fakey voices. Because we like fake. We like plastic. We don't want to deal with reality. And I'm going to say this shot again at the car industry. Have you noticed how butt ugly the cars and SUVs are looking? I mean, I'm going to use the word retarded looking design concepts. Just ugly. The Juke. These Kia Sorentos, all these, they're the stupidest looking things I have ever seen. And I'm watching Americans get this warm feeling when they get their new car, and it's all plastic. I've watched the dumbing down of design concept. You can say whatever you want. You say, well, that's just your opinion. No, it's not just my opinion. When you can look at the old Dodge Chargers and the old muscle cars and you can see what cars are today, you go, wow. Tell me they're not trying to homogenize us, take away our passion, take away our raw creativeness. I can't believe when I actually see something that's all steel. Now that's worth big money. Tonka truck, solid stamped steel. Steel bumper, steel everything. The only plastic was the wheels and the cab glass and the seats. Rubber smokestacks. Those trucks are outlasting today's cars. Those toy trucks. Wow. We race around, we rush here and there, we watch TV shows that are here today, gone tomorrow. We live in a culture of the immediate gratification. We spend way more for a piece of junk car that supposedly gets better fuel efficiency than a cool-looking muscle ride made out of steel with a cool dash lines, roomy interior, nice seats, nice look. And we see men and women today thinking they're so cool because they can afford this overpriced plastic piece of junk on wheels. And those 4x4s, they're not as tough as the Ford Broncos, the International Scouts, the Chevy K5 Blazers. You bump too hard with those, you're busting struts and CV joints and everything else. Tell me America hasn't been dumbed down. And most Americans don't care that the illegals are coming in. They don't care because it doesn't affect them yet. New England doesn't care. Most of the nation that doesn't have this problem doesn't care, but I'm out west and I care. I'm watching what it's done to California. I'm watching what it's doing to good old Denver. That a huge percentage of motorists are uninsured and they're illegals driving cars because they can also get a driver's license. Did you know that? And when they're caught with no insurance, do they arrest them? Do they deport them? Nope. Can you go after them in court? No, because they don't have a dime. Isn't it awesome that our government is kicking the white man in the balls? Isn't that fun? That we the people, that the white people brought in our Constitution, our white people brought in the Declaration of Independence, our white people gave us the infrastructure that we depend on, and now we have other countries coming in, laughing at us, mocking us, putting us down, accusing us of racism, while they bash into our cars and drive away from the scene. Right outside the house here, I'm sitting at a traffic light and some idiot in a Nissan four-door truck rear ends my truck and bends the bumper down about an inch. I get out and I said, dude, you bent my bumper. Okay, let's pull over there. Mexican guy with temp tags. Dumb me. I should have taken his picture and said, I'm not moving until the police come. Should have taken a picture of him, the temp tag, and the vehicle. I pulled over to the church and the idiot drives away. If people think that I'm going to respect an ethnicity that does that kind of stuff to hardworking Americans who don't, people like me who obey traffic laws, get insurance, and you wreck my truck and I'm supposed to not say anything because it might offend you, you've got to be kidding me. Do you know how many people in the Mexican neighborhood run into our school buses and drive off as the driver's calling it in? True story. I'm going to tell you something I've noticed about ethnicities, and people get mad when I say this, but there are stereotypes that can be truthfully spoken. I've noticed between two terminals when perfect attendance awards were given out that there were less perfect attendance awards in the African American community than there were in the white Hispanic community. Two terminals with equal number of employees. And the comment was made by some African Americans right to me. I don't care about perfect attendance. When I'm sick, or if I just want to take a day off, I use a sick day because it's a free paid day. The African American community, that a huge majority of them are the entitlement ethnicity. You think I'm joking around? But then you go over to the Asian community, the Vietnamese, and they got their shops and they work hard. Very hard. Do you ever notice that the Asians aren't making all this noise and drawing attention to themselves? Does anybody notice that, or is that just me? That the Asians can run a business the size of a shoebox because they don't waste space. Look at businesses that are set up by white people. Big entrances, big grand facades, wasted money on construction, and you got 3 tables inside. Personally, the Asians are more practical and functional, and they know how to turn more profit because they don't waste an overhead. Anybody remember that song? I started to pick up a broom, but instead I decided to get high. I was going to make love to my wife, but instead I decided to get high. It's about smoking pot. And we laugh at that. The girl that showed it to me was a Christian, thought it was funny, and I said, at first I was offended. I said, this is stupid. But then I found myself laughing, going, oh my gosh. I used to have a job, but all I did was sit around getting high. Do you see what Americans are doing? We're all pursuing our own selfish interests. We're actually divided more than we've ever been before because we're all just consumed with our own little personal agenda for the day. Did you notice in Cairo, did you notice when Facebook and all the Middle Easterners got together and said, we're tired of this government? And the people united and stormed the gates of hell. We have been drugged in this country. Oh, I want to earn as much money as I can. And the little pipe dreams that you may never actually get to realize. Another group of people I noticed that's become quite offensive and being very rude online is the gaming community. One guy in Hong Kong uploads nothing but gaming stuff, makes his gaming videos, and he made some very nasty comments to me, and I wrote him back, and I said, coming from you, a guy that's addicted to video games, I'm going to consider your comment fit for the trash can. You're not what I call an intellectual. You're not contributing a damn good thing to society. You're drowning in video games. We, the anime crowd, the same thing. Do you notice that the devil is content to get you fixated on something as long as you don't pay attention to what's going on? A lot of people don't care about history. They say, oh, I don't get into politics. You'd better. The day's going to come when your little thing that you're addicted to may be unplugged because of the politics going on around you. We're not paying attention, folks. We're just not paying attention. That being said, people say, Pacific, what can you do? I'm going to tell us Christians what we need to do. We need to drive with our eyes open. We need to pray for this stuff. We need to not pray for a better America. That is a waste of time. What we need to do is pray for people's eyes to be open to trust Christ as Lord and Savior. What we need to do is pray that God would protect us because things are going to get worse. It's coming. I see it. Batten down the hatches because a storm is coming. And you're going to be learning real quick whether you're seaworthy or you go straight to the bottom. America's slowly, but with acceleration, entering a time where we're going to start separating the men from the boys and the women from the little Hello Kitty girls. America cannot go on its current self-centered path and keep doing this decade after decade after decade after decade. That when we've consumed to the point of no return and not manufactured, when other nations have bled our economy dry, which is what China's doing, and we owe them so much debt that they own us. Stop believing the lies on Fox News and the liberal news networks that we're actually going to make a difference. The only difference that's being made is we're selling ourselves to the devil. The only difference that's being made is men are getting worse and worse. That we're Psalm 2. Let us throw off their fetters. The Americans don't want to be told what to do. Americans don't want to obey laws. Americans don't want to submit to God's definition of marriage. And instead, we've been isolated, marginalized, made fun of. And we all go back licking our wounds, fanning into flame our little addictions because we've given up. There's no more seas to conquer. There's no more dragons to slay. There's no wild, wild west. Now we've allowed the internet, the media, the sports, the SUVs to anesthetize us, to be a diversion, instead of being sober-minded and vigilant. We drown in our porn, we drown in our video games, we drown in our weed, we drown in our drinking, we drown in our curiosity of exploring same-sex and everything. We drown in this. And the enemy has successfully rendered us ineffective. Letting illegals come into this country, go to college, get jobs, get a driver's license. Anybody can submit proof of insurance and then immediately drop it after getting their license plates. Hello? That it should be up to insurance companies to send the DMV that, hey, this person canceled their insurance. The DMV needs to have a system that red alerts that vehicle and downs it and sends out an alert to the police department. No insurance. Tow impound vehicle. Illegal aliens in America should be deported immediately. And the bill should be sent to Mexico City. I say a lot about white culture and things I don't like, but at the same time I also see something destructive coming in that ultimate goal is to snuff out white culture. And that's other ethnicities. I believe in diversity. I am very international. But I'm not seeing that with the Hispanic, Latino, Chica community. I'm not seeing it. When I say that I don't trust them, I've worked in a break room with them. They say one thing out of their mouth. I've seen so much stuff, and I thought, man, I don't trust these people. And of course, I'll be accused of being racist for saying that. People don't even know what the definition of a word is anymore. If you make true statements about an ethnicity and you don't happen to be that ethnicity, you're automatically branded a racist. That's called their cop-out default button, and they push it all the time. Because if you can tell your mind, he's a racist, therefore I don't have to listen to him. No, I'm not racist. I'm saying true things. When I say Americans don't like truth, we're not talking white people. We're not talking just feminist white women that are pro-abortion. We're talking people in the black community. A lot of them don't want to hear truth. And as evidenced by their voting record, they don't want to hear truth. Looking at the Hispanics and their voting record and what they're doing to the city and county of Denver, they don't want truth. Not all, but a lot. I'm just saying. Trolls don't like truth. They get revenge, get nastier and nastier while hiding behind monitors. Isn't that fun? It all boils down to truth. It all boils down to whether you love truth or hate truth. And now we have a whole new generation of people manufacturing their definition of truth, which isn't truth at all. It's just another lie with eggshell around it. All you got to do is go poke and it goes pfft, and you get yolk all over your head. I'm just saying. For a mayor to allow people of illegal status to apply for city council is just stupid and boneheaded. This is not Mexico. This is not Africa. This is not Asia. This is the United States of America, lest anybody forgot. This is a land of cultural diversity and ethnic diversity. We're not all going to be just like each other. But I am personally offended when one group of ethnicity starts to dominate, show favoritism, hire their own, and start mocking and making fun of us and blaming us for all the racism in the world. I'm getting tired of it. There's a lot of things I could say about ethnicities that is just shamefully disgusting that I see every day. But you can't say anything to them because it's not politically correct. No, I'm not racist at all. But I see a lot of them as racist. And it's bearing some pretty rotten fruit. And has very evil implications for the rest of us. This is Pacific signing off. Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's hump day. Bye-bye.